actually remember it years ago is someone saying, oh, magnums, they're good for lips. Yeah, but why is a magnum good for lips? So if we actually look at the why and the how, that's going to give you more information. Hi, I'm Katie Schofield and I'm a permanent makeup artist and trainer. I'm obsessed with all things lips, eyeliner and eyebrows. And as well as being a supplier, speaker and educator, I want to help you grow your business and reach permanent excellence. Welcome to the podcast. Hello and welcome to Permanent Excellence. It's an absolutely glorious day here, long awaited, goodness, and I'm full of the joys of spring today. So today I just wanted to talk about the mindset of questions in permanent makeup with regards technique, with regards needles, with regards pigments. I get the same questions over and over and over again, and it's been that way for years, and I'm actually wanting to get you to change the way you think about things. So an interesting paradox really that happens to medical students when they start learning, they are told that 25% of what they learn by the end of their training will not be true. So it's not that the people are teaching them lies, it's just that understanding changes, techniques change. What we think is good at one point in time, we learn otherwise as time goes on. So if you're sort of training for 7, 8, 9 years in medicine, then things are going to have changed by the end. Our understanding of something like the human body and biology is going to have changed because it's so vast and complicated. And as much as we're drawing on people's skin in permanent makeup, we're drawing on bodies, and the body is receiving pigment, it's having needles placed on it. These give biological responses, and so our understanding is going to change. And otherwise, also we're getting better at it. We're getting better at understanding. Pigments are changing, laws are changing on them, particularly in the EU, and that's having an effect on pigments all around the world. And still, I see the same question, and I've tried to answer it in a lot of my YouTube content. What is the best? Which or what is the best? Pigment, needle, technique. And I would like to invite you to change the way you think about these questions, because what so many people, so many artists are searching for is this one thing, this one magic bullet that's going to be the answer to their amazing retention, to their amazing healed results, to get in that perfect shape. And there is no magic bullet, there is no magic technique, there's no magic pigment, there's no magic needle. There are all sorts of different options available to you. So if we actually look at the why and the how, that's going to give you more information. And with that information, like, why is this pigment good for this person? Why is organic pigment good for lips? Why is organic pigment good for people who don't retain well? Why is inorganic pigment better for that person? Why is that needle good? What's good about it? Then understanding the differences and how things work is going to give you so much more confidence in being able to choose different things for different people, different pigments for different people, different needles, different techniques. It's understanding how and why, and that knowledge will set you free. Because I see so many people wrapped up in the, just tell me it's a 1RL at this speed. What's the perfect speed? There isn't one. There isn't one. There's only the perfect speed for what you're doing. So and that depends on who you are as well. Are you heavy-handed? Is your hand fast? Is it slow? And who you're doing it on. And all those things are going to come together to allow you to choose for the best results. So understanding the why. This is why I am a total nerd. I am a total nerd. You can't just tell me what, it doesn't work in my brain. So if I was to say, what's the best needle? And someone said, I actually remember it years ago, is someone saying, oh, magnums, they're good for lips. Yeah, but why is a magnum good for lips? Why? Now, I could answer you and say that a magnum, particularly if it's got a large number of needles in the configuration, will pack pigment in quicker because you've got, say, 7 needles going over one piece of skin at once. You're going to pack in colour quicker. So that's why it would be good for lips. Why? Because lips are very sensitive. They swell more. They've got a lot more lymph. They've got a lot more nerves. There's a real high blood flow there. So especially if someone was struggling with pain or you were struggling with swelling, remember, if someone's swelling, then that's the body pushing everything out. You've got all that tension behind it. You've got lymph fluid. You need to get in, get out. So a magnum would be good in that case. Now, personally, I don't particularly love magnums. I do in some people. So if someone was really bleeding, really swelling, I would switch to a magnum. Personally, I get the best results with a 1RL or a 3RL on lips. Does that mean that's the best needle for lips? No, it means it's the best needle for me and my machine and the pigments I'm using for lips. I just get the best results with that. However, if I was to just go 1RL is the best, someone told me 1RL is the best for lips, then I'm going to use it on everyone. And then on someone, maybe someone with thinner skin, maybe someone who's a little bit older, they start bleeding and I've got like blood pooling, but I'm going, nope, 1RL, someone told me, I'm sticking to it. That's what I've been told. Then I'm going to get terrible results. She's going to have trauma, possible scarring there. Maybe the machine was too heavy a hit. Maybe I'm too heavy-handed to be using a 1RL on lips like that. So it's the understanding of why. So why might a 1RL not be great for lips? Well, a 1RL is one needle in the configuration, which means that all the pressure is down to one tiny point. If you're using a magnum, and it's, say, a 7 magnum, that pressure is spread out across 7 needles. That means those needles are going to behave differently. They're different. So a 1RL, you are much more likely to cause trauma if you are unskilled or if you're putting on too much pressure. You know, I always say, think of it like a shoe heel. If you're standing on some grass that's a little bit, the ground's quite soft, and you've got a stiletto heel on, you stand up, or even just, you know, stand on one foot, you're going through that. And if you're standing there in some sneakers or trainers, you're not going to go through. That's the difference between a magnum and a 1RL. So again, what kind of ground are we standing on? So it's understanding why and how those needles change on different skin as to why you need to do it. So understanding how they work, understanding each individual colorant in your pigment is going to give you a better understanding of how they're going to age, how they're going to heal. So again, we see so many people saying, what's the best pigment? Honestly, I don't like to be exclusive to one line. I've got a lot of favorite lines, and actually I'll have favorite lines for eyebrows, different sometimes for eyeliner, or I'll have 2 or 3 that I like, and it will be for different people. So let's just have a quick talk about eyeliner. Why would I want to use something different on someone? So one of my favorites, especially if people have got really, they've got a lot of capillaries on their eyelids, I will like to use something that is a little bit more stable, which is something like an iron oxide. Which actually, if you're using black iron oxide, it's more of a greyish colour. They're never going to really get that sort of full punchy black so much with that. It is more of a very dark grey. The reason I would do that is that tends to be more stable in the skin. It tends to not be able to migrate in the skin. Okay, so if someone came to me with a lot of capillaries right down to the lashes, I would want to be cautious with them. Or if they had other risks of migration, say if they were very elderly and have very thin skin, it's very easy to blow out on somebody like that. So those things would all be in, I would sit down and I would be making a decision. Whereas if you've only got the what's the best pigment? And then someone says, it's this one. And maybe that's full, highly pigmented carbon black. And that's not the right one for that person. You've only got that in your head. You've not understood the why, what makes them behave differently, how is it going to act. And it's understanding those that absolutely gives you that confidence to choose. And it's that comes with knowledge of your artistry, and that's why we should always be going for not just what is the best pigment, but why. So I have different favorite pigments. I will love a really highly pigmented carbon black. Why? In, out. It goes into the skin very quickly, so I've got less risk of trauma. I am balancing that, and if I look at someone with really nice skin, I can use that. So what's the best? There isn't one. There isn't a best. And it's getting stuck in that mindset of not wanting to learn why. You've got to remember, these are all tools that you can use. We've got this vast array of different amazing pigments, different colours, made up differently, that are molecularly different. And you've got all these wonderful needles, all these amazing machines. This is your art and these are your tools, and understanding how those tools work is just going to open up so many doors for you with your confidence and with your healed results as well. And not just your healed results, but your aged results. Because PMU isn't just, well, a lot of us think it's just the initial photographs, because that's what we like to show most on Instagram, you know, those beautiful, crisp, fresh brows. But how do they look healed? And how do they look when you see them in a year, 2 years, 10 years time? And having that knowledge of each individual colorant and how it's going to behave, the suspension that it's in, you know how they behave, you know how they have a tendency to behave. It allows you to choose. So machines, what's the best machine? Now, this is kind of unfair, because when I say that there's no best, there are worst. So let's just quickly go back to pigments. What's the worst pigment? Very easy. Anything that's illegal. Anything that you're getting from somewhere untrusted, like Amazon or eBay. I'm not saying that there aren't people selling good stuff on Amazon, but you're much more likely to come into contact with dupes and things that aren't actually the real thing. So that would be you're dicing with things there, dicing with not death, but you're dicing with a bad outcome there. Anything that's not sterile. Anything that's not actually marked as safe for the area that you're working in. Now, when I say the area that you're working in, I'm talking geographically. We have different rules in the UK, the EU and America. And the EU is the strictest. So anything that's not adhering to the safety of where you live and, you know, what you are legally required to do, then you need to stay away from. So anything that's also buying secondhand. When someone's like, I've only used it once, but you don't know that, do you? So I would say buying second-hand pigments, you put in risk there. So there are definitely bads. But when we're talking about the best, there's a lot of high-quality pigments out there that will work for different clients. We can't look inside a client and see what their biology is. I wish we could. We can ask them questions, but we can't look inside. If we could, we might then be able to make an even stronger choice. But, you know, it's 2 sessions for permanent makeup, and then we monitor it over years to see, you know, did they fade too quick? Did they not fade quickly enough? Are they still looking a little bit oversaturated and blocky a few years later? These are all things that we can assess, and if we know what's in the products that we're using, it just allows us to make those choices so much more. So machines, what's the best machines? Well, there's certainly bad ones, cheap ones. You'll get a lot of cheap machines in training courses. Not every training course, certainly not mine. I give people the machine that I use day in, day out, because I know it's good. I have to have the conscience of training people and knowing that it's not going to conk out in just 3 weeks' time because it's just a £30 machine. And there are a lot of people that are putting machines out there that are just sticking a logo on it and then that's it, you're tied into their brand. That's another thing that I don't particularly like, is being tied into a brand. So there's a lot of people used to, it's changing a bit, train you and then you have to buy their needles because it's only their needles that are compatible with the machine. Well, what if you don't like those needles? What if those needles are not giving you good results and you've spent £3,000 on a machine and then you're stuck with it? You can't change anything. So I would always recommend with a machine that you're going to buy something that takes universal needles, and that way you have a choice. Again, people say to me, what do you think is the best needle? And I'm like, I have so many different favourites for so many different things. I have a different favourite for hair strokes than I do for lips. And sometimes that favourite changes day to day. You know, my default brand that I used all the time, I'm not loving so much at the moment. Are there bad needles? Yeah, absolutely. Cheap needles, you're probably not going to get good quality. Also, if you're buying them online, places like Amazon, eBay, etc., you can't be sure that they're sterile, or they might be lying about being sterile. So you need to buy them from a reputable source, absolutely. But having that choice, and again, understanding how needles work, how the different configurations work, but actually how each individual brand works, what makes it different, what makes it special. So there's things like, you might think, well, a 1RL 0.25 is just a 1RL 0.25. Well, actually, no. Some of them have got wider tubes, like things like the Vertix have a very, very, very narrow tube. I really like those for hair strokes. I love the Allure Virtuo for hair strokes. I love Allure Virtuo with the wider tube for lips, because no needle that I've used gets that pigment in so quickly. And I prefer a 3RL than a 1RL because everything is different. So the advice I'm going to give you is to stay sort of hungry for knowledge and understanding, how these things work. So when someone's saying to you, these are the best pigments, why are they? Do you know what's in them? Do you know what's in them? Do you know how to identify the colorants in them and go, yeah, that's an organic bright red, or that's some of them might have blue in them. Do you want them to age and separate with blue coming out of them in years to come? These are all things that can happen with pigments. If you didn't know that, probably best to do some more pigmentology knowledge. I did a wonderful podcast with Veronica Fleiss, who's got her own pigment brand, where we talk about actually understanding the entire pigmentology, the science of it, and knowing what's in them just gives you that power. So we've covered machines, needles, techniques. I would say that you need to learn as many as you can and get good at them, so that whatever your client's skin throws up, you know how to react to it. Because sitting there and going, it's bleeding and there's loads of lymph and it's not going in, and stressing and sweating and thinking, I don't know what to do, is awful. I've been there. I remember that feeling so well, of like, I don't know how to deal with this, and not knowing how to deal with this and just carrying on. You run the risk of scar tissue. You run the risk of, serious trauma of the skin, terrible results that are too deep and heal really unattractively. So that was a wonderful time when someone said to me, probably, was it last year? Can't remember. But someone said to me, do you ever get stressed doing eyebrows? And I actually thought about it, and I was going to go, oh yeah. And then I said, no, actually, I don't anymore. And I could remember when I did used to get really stressed. Oh God, in the beginning, there was hours of crying and, oh, I can't do this, it's too stressful. And then I realised that I hadn't felt like that in a long time, but I couldn't tell you when. I couldn't tell you the day when I went, I am no longer stressed about eyebrows. It does not stress me anymore. I don't know when it happened, but just time on skin, doing it day in, day out, and having to deal with many different situations, and having the techniques, the different pigments, the needle knowledge and the machine knowledge to know that whatever happens, I'm not saying I don't get clients that bleed, that are really lymphy, that skin can dissolve when you touch it, almost like it's disintegrating. But I know what to do because I've got that background knowledge. So learning, why would I change my needle? Why would I change it to a wider needle? Why then would I change my technique? Because I want the best possible outcome. And sitting there going, I don't know what to do, and actually, causing trauma on people's skin is not good enough. So if you find yourself in forums asking, what is the best? What technique is the best? Because so many people are just taught with a machine with a 1RL and whip shading, and it's not going to cut it on a lot of people. I would say the majority of people. So then understanding why, why that is. Why wouldn't it cut a 1RL with whip shading? Because a 1RL can cause trauma to a lot of thin skins. It's not great at implanting in really thick and oily skins, and whip shading can be too harsh a treatment for a lot of people. It's not an aggressive move, but it's quite vigorous. So it's not perfect for a lot of people. So what do? You need to have other techniques in your back pocket to just whip out when you go, oh, well, this isn't working. You need to have something to change to, and you need to have the pigment and needle knowledge as well. So instead of the whats, let's start asking about the whys. Why did that migrate? Why did her skin disintegrate? Well, a lot of the time we might not know, but you'll know what to do. Why did this person swell so much? What was I doing? So staying curious and hungry for the knowledge of the understanding of why is going to give you the confidence to be a great artist and to just not flap in situations. And living a flap free life is nice. And actually, I think that day when I said no, I don't get stressed about eyebrows anymore, was a real nice understanding of the fact that, oh, that was a while ago. I feel better now. And as I said, I do get difficult situations. Skin that I deal with, actually, a lot of older people come to me up to 80s, 82, 80, 83. I think I did someone of 87 recently, and their skin is going to behave incredibly differently. Why? Again, knowing all your anatomy and physiology knowledge of the skin and why it's different and what's the difference with elderly skin, it's going to allow you to make those choices. So we need to know what we're using. Don't let yourself get hemmed into one thing: needles, pigments, machines, techniques. Don't let yourself. You've got a wonderful world to explore out there, and also stay practicing. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.